See who's going to join us today. We got a producer now. We're getting all fancy. That one you can't move like that.
This one?
That one you have to move the joystick.
Get a little bit more centered.
That's fine. It looks good. Okay, all right, so we're back to answer some questions, talk some jiu-jitsu and some craziness, and just connect with everybody. So, hello, Andrew. Good to see you. So I'm going to start with some questions. We weren't able to see the questions on Facebook last time, and we got a lot from there. So I'm going to have Zaven actually is going to be kind of he's going to have the computers off to the side here a little bit, so he can kind of read the questions for us. But I'll start with some of the questions that were on the Facebook that we missed last time. So David had a question about a proper headbutt. Okay, so maybe I should borrow Zaven for this one. Maybe I should headbutt Zaven today. So what I can tell you about the headbutt, as far as like proper techniques, and if you can turn those around this way so we can kind of see too. Just so we have a good monitor. You can. The one thing that Helson would always tell us was, the headbutt, number one, is extremely effective. I mean, when they took that out of MMA, I think it was a major game changer. It's extremely effective for the person on the top. That's great from the standing position as well. I've seen a lot of guys go down from a headbutt. You don't need that much space to do a lot of damage. I think the more and more we learn about like CTE and things like that, traumatic brain injury and all that sort of thing, the more I actually would stay away from it. I would only utilize it if absolutely necessary. So I prefer using palm strikes, elbow, harder hitting parts of the body. But if it's necessary and you need to throw a good headbutt, I think one of the best places to effectively throw a headbutt from is in the guard position. When you're down nice and low here. So if I could borrow Zaven for a second. So if I could have you swing over here real quick for me. Main thing here, when you're stuck in somebody's guard, we're talking about fighting against a skilled fighter, okay? And I only go over so much of this because, some of this stuff, not to make it sound like mystical or anything like that, but some of the stuff that Helson has shown me over the years, I don't always show to the broader public, okay? So closed Facebook groups, one thing, our students, I allow Helson that opportunity to share that if he wants to. But some of this stuff, like, again, it's not that it's secret, but I in a way, I feel like, I feel like it's my responsibility to allow him to share those things, especially the things that are very, very dangerous, right? And with the people that he feels necessary to share. But I will say this, he would always talk about he'd always say, use the head where the horns come out, right? and from this position, this is where you have a really good spot to headbutt from, is in somebody's guard. The main thing that you want to do where it's utilized, you don't want to give up space. You don't want to bring your head up like this. It's more going forward with your body, okay? Now I would hold it differently, but the main thing when you're in a position like this is when you're on the top, making sure that you don't allow their hips to run on you and you block the arms. You don't want them to be able to sit up over top of you like this. This causes all sorts of problems. So I want to keep myself in the center. So I want to stay here. I want to block his ability to strike me. That's number one. Don't get hit. Then when there's opportunity, then we can utilize a headbutt, okay, or something like that. But the main thing here is blocking the hips, controlling the arms, keeping my head in the center line. So I'm not getting hit and I can hit him, okay? So I'll leave it at that. I mean, there's ways of holding the head and things like that, but I think, like I said, I think I would allow Helson to share that when he comes around, because he's really better at explaining it and doing it. But the other place that I really, really like the headbutt is in the clench position to help utilize and change position, and really kind of off balance somebody, put them in a weaker position. Of course, to do damage as well if need be, but mostly to set up something else like a takedown, or the ability to get down to the ground. So that's when I would utilize a headbutt. But again, I try to stay away from things that do a lot of damage. For the most part, like you know, if I had to defend myself, at least at my age, my physical health at this point, if I had to defend myself against the average human, I'm probably not going to have to utilize strikes that much. I would probably just control somebody and, you know, tell them to chill out and, you know, you know, call the cops if I needed to. But that's pretty much it. Like, you know, like I don't, if I don't need to do physical damage, I don't want to. The two, we were just talking about strikes and teaching some of the strikes to our kids group right before this class. And we're talking about the dangers of it, understanding the necessity, right? It's all part of jiu-jitsu. It is, we utilize strikes, right? I mean, you know, if you're going to fight somebody, you may have to utilize strikes, but for sure you're going to have to know how to defend them. So it's a complete martial art. We've got throws, we've got strikes, submissions. I mean, it's a full martial art, and so they're necessary to learn and understand. So, how are we doing here? Any other questions?
Not yet.
Oh, let's see. We got a hello there. All right. Okay. So the other thing I wanted to talk about actually was, let's see. David also asked about gym story. Should we show some of the techniques first and then talk about the gym story, or should we jump into the gym story?
Maybe technique first.
Maybe technique first. Okay. All right. So this first one I'm gonna use David for. So the question was Kimura setups against a skilled practitioner. So, man, that's a loaded question. There's a whole lot there, but I'll show you one that I like a lot. Okay. It's just anytime I can get the arm outside like this. When he starts, when I swim, like let's say I break his grip like this, and he goes to swim his arm. I want to catch him right there. I want to catch. It's very much a timing thing. But if I break this grip and I'm trying to pull him in like this, and he goes to circle his arm, I'm going to use my knee and my hand at the same time. I'm going to boom. You see what happened? Okay. I brought his elbow to me. Now I can drop in, make my grip. And now I can scoot and I can finish, you know, your standard Kimura. So let's watch that again. If I swim inside like this, I catch him in that moment. When I feel him start to swim his hand back inside, this is an educated person. He doesn't want to put that hand on the mat. He knows the danger. So if I get myself in here and I see him start to swim, I want that elbow turned out like this. So when I see that happen, sorry, I slipped past it that time. But I'm going to slap his hand down and I use my knee to bring his arm to my chest. Now this comes here, I drop it in, and now I can move my hips out, and then we can finish our Kimura. So that's probably my favorite setup. There's a bunch, you know, there's a lot of ways to setting up the Kimura. The Kimura is really a super strong and versatile weapon. We talked about it a little bit in the last video we did, didn't we? Yeah?
That makes sense.
Yeah, so I won't go into my whole theory on that again, but that's a really fun, simple one. I like that one a lot. Justin had a question about the arm in guillotine, and it's fascinating that he brought that up because we've actually been working on that with Mandy quite a bit. I think we showed it actually in one of the videos, but I'll let Mandy do this one here. So arm in guillotine is slightly different, and I think we did talk about that in one of the videos that we did recently, but real quickly we'll go over the difference again. Okay, guillotine. Very, very strong, okay, here, and I'm rotating like this, so I'm taking away all the space like this, here, and if we're in the standing position, I'm using gravity to help me finish. Typically against a skilled practitioner, I'm probably gonna have to get to the guard, or even possibly roll them into the mount. When you roll them into the mount, a lot of times it ends up being more of a neck crank, or a neck crank and a choke at the same time, so be very careful about that. If you roll up on top, right, when their hips and their body can't curve like that, they're stuck on the mat, that, you know, the potential for doing damage to the neck is much higher. In the arm in guillotine, the difference is that when I have the arm stuck in the party here, we're here like this, okay, it's very difficult for me to just pull straight up or extend straight up because this arm, she tucks this arm down. Now this blocks, it impedes my movement of going just straight up like this. So the action is like this. We're here, okay? And one of the first things I like to do is get what we call a chin strap. Before I even wrap up the guillotine, if I snap the head down and I catch, I want to put my hand right there on her chin. And when this arm comes in to meet it, I'll move this hand like this. So I'm going to move your arm out of the way. What it would look like is this. So I kind of curl my fingers, I push this through, and then I grab at the same time. All right? So I want to make a fist with the choking arm. So once I have hold the chin and I shoot it in, I just kind of make a little bit of a nudge. I push this in, I wrap here like this. And now this hand is going to rotate like this. Okay? So as I'm going, instead of, because remember, this arm, there's an arm stuck in here. Head's over here, arm stuck in here. So I can't just go straight up because this is impeded. But what this hand can do is help in this process. So I'm going to rotate like this, and I'm actually going to finish the choke by putting my lateral muscle to push the neck down into the choke. So I'm going to turn like this. So this action is really important. Okay, so make a fist. Once you get through there, bend like this. Okay, so let's have you over here on this side. Okay, so I get the position. The main thing, you don't even have to have a closed guard to finish this choke. Okay, even if she steps over top here like this on this side. Okay, as long as I have something here to kind of block her hips from just rolling over. Go ahead and put your knees down for me. So even if this knee is just across the belly, like a lot of times I'll shoot this in because I want this leg over the back. Now if she tries to jump, I can roll, and the good defense way for her to go is on this side. If you're defending this choke, you want your body to be on the opposite side that the head is wrapped. So if I block her ability to do that, if I jump in and I come here, now I can finish. I'm going to bend my, sorry, okay? Yeah. A lot of pressure on that. Okay, so.
We got a question.
Yeah? Yep. What's the question?
Do you want to read it?
Go ahead. You read it.
Andrew says, if there was no plan for the day, can you talk about either X-Guard or De La Riva? I've heard of both, but I've never been shown how to set up or use either.
Okay, so X-Guard actually, it's not a position I use that much. I mean, I have a series, and there's actually a De La Riva X-Guard. I probably utilize more than maybe both of them. And that's maybe getting a little bit complicated. So the De La Riva, and I do like maybe one or two things from the De La Riva myself. I'm like a one-trick pony there. But it's an extremely common position. So the X-Guard, I'll leave that for Mike Noyce. If you take a class with Mike Noyce sometime, that's I don't want to say it's his position, but he's very good at that position. He's got a great series from there. You know, one of my teachers early on, Fred Sinowich, was really one of the innovators of the X-Guard. He was a smaller guy. I want to say he was a lightweight. But he had amazing pressure and very, very good sweeps. His sweeps were incredible. And he had a really good X-Guard. And he had one leg that was sort of like, I don't know, it was sort of atrophied to a point, like certain point. Like it wasn't as big and strong as the other leg. Like he had some issue when he was born, like his leg was stuck. He had some surgeries and things like that. But his guard was still incredible. Like you wouldn't have known it. Like his gi on, I mean, he's just, man, like a Jiu-Jitsu Yoda. And he was really, really good at the X-Guard and really setting it up. But I think one of the reasons that he probably utilized that position a good bit was because I think he wasn't able, because of his size and of course the limitations with the one leg. I don't think he was able to utilize the closed guard in the same way that somebody like me could, like 6'4", long legs. So he really revolutionized that position quite a bit. I mean, he was doing it way before, you know, you saw guys like Marcelo Garcia coming on the scene, things like that. So he was one of the earliest influences I remember teaching and showing us those techniques. But I'll briefly show you what the positions look like, okay? So the De La Riva, if you could stand up for me, please. There's a lot of different variations to this. Of course, this is named after De La Riva, okay? And so this is your basic De La Riva. Let's turn this direction, okay? Here and here, okay? Now, there's a lot of variation again, okay? But I like having the far side grip. Some people like to have this grip, okay? And so this is the basic De La Riva. And at the end of the day, most all of your open guard positions are designed to still have hip control. you want to have control of the hips. If I'm controlling her hips, she's not passing my guard. If she's in control of mine, she's got a better chance of passing. So most of the time, I think my favorite open guard position is this basic foot in the hip control. This is extremely strong, okay? I have a pull and I have a push here. It's very hard for her to do anything to pass the guard until she does what? What do you got to do? You got to get rid of the foot off the hip. And so the De La Riva became into fashion really as a backup plan because black belts are really good at protecting their hips. So if she gets her elbow on the inside and peels my foot off, now I just put in another layer, another knot for her to have to untie. Okay, so now my feet aren't in her hips, but I'm controlling her hips by way of her legs. So now you have to untie a different knot. So that's kind of what the De La Riva sort of looks like. Okay, the X guard is like this when you're underneath. Now, if you can widen your base for me a little bit, okay, it's like this. Okay, so this is a basic X guard. In this hand, most people are going to grab here, or they'll come up like this and hook really high on the foot, maybe even behind the head. But a lot of times people are going to start with a grip here somewhere. Maybe here or here, okay? So there's a lot of control. And again, what am I really controlling? I'm controlling the hips. So those are the two, that's the without going into a huge tutorial, that's the basics of the position, right? So we covered, I think, headbutt, arm, and guillotine. What are the questions?
That's about all we've got so far.
Yeah, all right. Mike Casey, I got a big smile from him. How you doing, buddy? All right. So I'll tell you my one gym story. And then what time are we at? I don't want to go too long. I want to make these things nice and quick unless you guys have questions. And so if anybody has questions, YouTube or Facebook, go ahead and throw them on there. But years and years ago, like back when I first started, this is going to sound a little weird. I was talking to Mike the other day, Mike Casey, and he stopped telling some of these stories because it sounds kind of brutal. And at the same time, people now are like, what? Am I getting like a watered down, pansy version of the art? And it's not the case at all. What it was, though, it was a different time. Like back in the 90s, when I started, early 90s, the UFC had just come out. And almost everybody that came into the martial art, like I'm the only guy that I know that Jiu-Jitsu was their first martial art that I trained with. Everybody that I trained with came from a different martial art. Like they were a karate guy who got, who went to a seminar, got beat up by Gracie, and like, I got to learn this stuff. I was the first guy that I knew that was like, I hadn't done any other martial art. I always wanted to, but I had never had the opportunity. So my experience was a little bit different, but almost all of those guys, their first thing that they wanted to do was, does this really work? Like, I've been taught this my whole life. I've been doing karate or what, you name it, traditional martial art or wrestling. I don't think this guy can tap me, blah. And so almost every single time somebody came in as a beginner, you had to tap them out. You had to show them that it worked, right? Now, the world's different now. Like, people respect Jiu-Jitsu now, right? They didn't respect it back then. They had to learn to respect it. They wanted to see for themselves. And so pretty much everybody that trained, if you came in, you got tapped the first day, right? And it was, sometimes it was a fight, sometimes it wasn't, but a lot of times it was like, they really wanted to go after it. And sometimes they'd have that question, well, what if I was trying to hit you? All right, well, you try that. You try to hit me and I'm gonna do my thing. So there were a lot of challenges like that. And so almost every person that came in was like that, but we had a gentleman, every now and then you get somebody who's really, really super cocky. And this guy called up, and this was a little bit later than the 90s. I think might have been when I took the phone call, so at least I remember it this way. But it was early on. It was before I got my black belt for sure. The guy calls up and he's like, super cocky. He's just like, yeah, I'd really like to see if there's anybody there that could really handle me. I've been doing this and that and blah, blah, blah. I'm like, yeah, I think I got somebody. I think we got a few guys that can give you, good workout or whatever. And, you know, he just came across really, really just, I don't even, you probably don't remember this, but I'm like, I can't believe this guy. Like he's, you know, he's gone to different schools and he's given this story like, I just, you know, I beat up all their guys and blah, blah, blah. And I was just wondering if you got anybody that can give me a good fight. I'm like, yeah, I think we do. And so, you know, when something like this would happen, you get a phone call like that. Well, we have the prayer chain. So we call like, okay, Austin, dude, I got to tell you this story. This guy's, he's coming in Wednesday night, right? So everybody is showing up Wednesday night. Like, okay, cool, all right, we get to see this guy. And of course, you're taking some other phone calls during the week, but you know, I think I know who I'm looking out for because he's going to be there Wednesday night. Only guy I have scheduled to come in Wednesday night. Wednesday night comes around, everybody's there. Guy comes in, and he's like, maybe I shouldn't be putting this on YouTube. It's gonna make it sound terrible. But the guy comes in and he signs, you know, I make sure he signs the waiver and everything, and he's like, you know, like, yeah, you know, I called you the other day, and just, you know, and he just seemed really different than when he was on the phone. And like I was like, where's this cocky guy? You know, I was like, I thought he seemed okay. I'm like, all right, cool. And so, you know, we didn't hurt the guy, but every single time, everybody he trained with, like, we go with this guy. Like the line drill. We do the line drill after class. We lined up all the upper belts on one side. We put him on the other, and he ran through, and he's just getting smoked by all these dudes. And at the end of the class, it's like, wow, man, it's like, that was a lot rougher than I thought. I'm like, yeah, well, if you like it, you know, come back and see us. And, you know, everything was okay, but, you know, like, we put it to him. We made the guy tap as many times as we could, which is not what you really want to do as a beginner, but the guy, you know, he wanted to see. So Thursday comes around. This guy walks in, and he's like, I was supposed to be here last night, but I couldn't make yeah. He never came back. No, he never came back. So, yeah, I'm not exactly proud of that, but I want you guys to understand, again, the disclaimer, it was a little bit of a different world back then, right? You know, even at the Gracie Academy and everywhere, it was just a different world. So, yeah, I can feel bad about that now, you know, but obviously that sort of thing doesn't really happen anymore. Like, it's, everybody respects Jiu-Jitsu now. They come in and, you know, enjoy it. So that was my one gym story. Challenges were spoken and unspoken. Love the guy that would say, I've never trained before. Oh, I lost it. What happened to it? Where's all the comments? I got to see all the comments. Is that what I got to do?
Maybe not.
What happened?
I don't know why that's not working.
I lost it.
We figure it out.
Oh, these silly comments. So anyway, I'll watch it and respond to it later. But if there's no other questions, I think, let's see. Hello, Andre. What's up? Hope you're doing well, healthy and happy and all that good stuff. But anyway, we'll call that for the evening. We're going to come back. We'll come back and do one on Saturday. We're planning on, I think, doing some sort of like hill run or something crazy tomorrow. But hope everybody's staying healthy and fit and staying active at home. And yeah, we miss you all. And if you guys have any questions whatsoever for the next one, anything specific you want us to cover, go ahead and put it in the comments, and we'll schedule it, and we'll see you all Saturday. We haven't picked an exact time yet, but
I think we've been doing noon.
I think noon probably works good, and I think we're going to do another kids class right before that. So anyway, thanks for joining us, guys. Hope you're all doing well. We'll see you soon.